Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and recently in Batman Arkham Knight, I did a video on the penguin-centric side mission, Gunrunner. Today I'm going to be doing what I consider the counterpart mission to Gunrunner. This companion side mission that I'm going to be doing is Two-Faced Bandit. And that mission focuses on Two-Face. Consider Two-Faced Bandit and the Gunrunner side missions to be counterparts to each other because once they are finished, Two-Face and Penguin end up having dialogue towards each other when locked away. That always seemed to indicate that these missions were supposed to play off of each other, and also supposed to play off of the rivalry that they have for each other. The dialogue spoken between Penguin and Two-Face is different depending on who you lock away last. In my Gunrunner video, we were locking away the Penguin last. In this Two-Faced Bandit video, we will see what happens when Two-Face is the one that is locked up last. But let's not skip to the end just yet. We still have to show how Two-Face got caught to begin with. So, for context, Alfred reached out to us to say that one of the Bank of Gotham branches was being robbed. The robbery is being done by the men working for Two-Face, and now we are outside the bank, ready to intervene.
Two-Face's crew is robbing the Bank of Gotham in Chinatown. They're not getting their hands on 1 cent of Gotham's money.
Blow it! Go! Two-Face wants every last cent we can find!
Two-Face's thugs won't hear me over the alarm. No need to be quiet. I can hit them fast, hit them hard.
This first bank robbery doubles as an AR challenge. Whenever you complete this part of the game, you unlock an AR challenge where you're basically doing the exact same thing, but instead of taking out 8 people, you're taking out 10. So if you've ever practiced with that AR challenge before, you can probably fly through this first part where the alarm covers up all of your noise really quickly. It is nice having that much freedom, being able to take down anyone you want with a lot of ease for a bit. But after you take out those first 8 people, the difficulty increases, or at least it's intended to. The alarm goes off, and the enemy can hear you again. So you have to be a little bit sneaky after that point. But honestly, if you've taken out all 8 people, you don't really have a whole lot left to take out. So you really don't have to try too much harder. It's not until the next few banks that you have to really apply your stealth tactics and take it somewhat seriously. Here you can screw around quite a bit and still succeed. What I would recommend is using as few of the traps as possible before the alarms turn off. You should be able to take down plenty of Two-Face's gang without using any of the trap takedowns, and you're probably going to need them a lot more once the noise you make is not covered up by the alarm anymore. And by traps I mean things like walls you can blow up, electrified floors, ceiling glass you can break through, floor grates that haven't been blown up yet, stuff like that.
Well then, boys, looks like that bank has a bat infestation. Since we're making such a large withdrawal, why don't we take care of it for them? Lock the doors and find it. Whoever kills the bastard and brings us the body gets double their cut.
Two-Face locked us in. The thugs aren't after money now. They're after me. And there's no alarm to cover the sound of my attacks. I can't bring the car in here.
We can't help him. He's out cold. People, look out. Whoa! Batman, you got this wrong. The Bank of Gotham, it launders money for the mob. Or what's left of it. You remember the mob, right? The guys who burned half our face off because they couldn't get to you? Now sure, there's plenty of clean money mixed with the dirty. But what isn't tainted in this town? So stay away from the banks. You'll regret it if you don't.
Cash. Two-Face's crew went after the Bank of Gotham in Chinatown. I need you to disable the bank security gate and pick up Dent's thugs.
Sure thing, Batman. I'll send a car around now. The alarm's been tripped at the Bank of Gotham Drescher branch. Two-Face's crew are trying their luck, sir.
All right, boys, go, go, go! We're gonna be rich whenever Harvey takes his cut. Well, both his cuts.
My attacks will be covered by the noise of the alarm. No need to be subtle.
Doing the Two-Faced Bandit side missions has got me thinking about one of my favorite Two-Face related comic stories. That would be The Long Halloween. That is a storyline that has been briefly mentioned already in the Perfect Crime side mission. Now I guess calling The Long Halloween a Two-Face story might be a little misleading. It is actually more of a Harvey Dent story until the very end. Now Harvey Dent may be Two-Face, but the characters are quite different before and after the disfigurement. We do not get Two-Face for most of that comic, but it does cover the events over the year building up to his transition to becoming Two-Face. Now, The Long Halloween came out in 1996, I believe, and it is based on the early adventures of Batman. So, this storyline focuses on the teaming up of Batman, Jim Gordon, and Harvey Dent. And they're going to be going against Carmine Falcone, the head of the crime families in Gotham City. The intent here is just to take down the mob. While Batman does fight some supervillains in this storyline, this is more of a detective Batman line of comics. And during the Batman, Dent, and Gordon team up against Falcone, murders start to occur on holidays, starting on Halloween. Each of the murders that take place are people related to Falcone and his crime organization. It starts off on Halloween with his nephew, and then over the year, it goes on to include many more people like Falcone's sister and his own son. Now, the Justice Trio that I mentioned earlier, they start to struggle figuring out who the killer is while also trying to take down Falcone. The killer ends up being pretty big news over time, and eventually, that killer gets named Holiday. And that new Holiday name is due to all the murders occurring on, well, holidays. Eventually, Salvatore Maroni gets fed up with the situation and begins considering going against the crime lord Falcone. The reason Salvatore is as fed up as he is due to the fact that he feels Falcone is allowing the holiday murders to continue. When looking back on the murders, the people being killed are individuals who would challenge Falcone's rule, or the people being killed were Maroni's men. So arguably, Falcone is benefiting from the murders, even if they are being done to his own family and men. The event that fully turns Salvatore Maroni against Carmine Falcone is the murder that takes place on Father's Day. On that day, it is Salvatore Maroni's father who is killed by Holiday.
Gentlemen, it's bonus time. You want to double your pay tonight? It's as easy as kill the bat.
Now, Salvatore Maroni's father had been a longtime competitor to Carmine Falcone. You know, back in the days when they were rivals instead of working together. And him being killed does not feel like a coincidence. Sal Maroni thinks that Carmine is somehow behind the murders and responsible for his dad's death. At the very least, he believes Carmine Falcone's lack of action against Holiday has just left the door open for more murders to occur, and they continued long enough for his father to be killed as well. So he was pretty angered by the loss of his father, and then Maroni does the unthinkable. He seeks out District Attorney Harvey Dent and plans to roll over on his superior. Maroni agrees to become a key witness against Carmine Falcone. While Harvey Dent prepares for the trial of his life, Maroni is left in a holding cell to be watched and protected until the trial takes place. The crime organization, they managed to get someone into Maroni's cell though. The person that they sent in to see Maroni, well, that's going to be the daughter of Carmine Falcone. Carmine's daughter's name, that is going to be Sophia Falcone. And after the loss of his son, his daughter has really been stepping up and and trying to shake things up to figure out who Holiday is and also just keep the crime business and just try to keep the crime business in line. So she continues that by going to see Maroni herself. And once they are together in the holding cell area, that's where we find out that there has been a secret relationship between the two. Something that had to be a secret in the past due to the rivaling families having once fought against each other. And I guess even though they were now allied together, they kind of had to keep it a secret due to the bad blood that wasn't going away quickly even if they were cooperating. To add to the level at which they trust each other, it turns out, or at least it's implied, that Sophia also went to prison in relation to something that Maroni was doing, and while she had several opportunities to announce that, let them know that Maroni was involved, cut a deal, maybe lower her sentence time, she doesn't do that. She at no point ever turned on Maroni, and it kind of backs up the concept that if they really wanted to screw over Maroni, well, they could have done it a long time ago. She could have done it a long time ago. But she didn't, and she would not let that happen. At least that's kind of the angle that she goes at.
Wait!
Batman, I knew you wouldn't let this slide. Remember when I had the principal? Remember when I told Gordon we should arrest you? Said we shouldn't work with vigilantes? You promised me we'd crush crime in Gotham within the year. Was I ever part of the plan? Or was I just a distraction? A pretty boy lawyer the mob can focus all that hate on, while you tore them apart. Last chance. Get out of my way, or I deal with you myself.
Cash, the Drescher Bank's secure. Send a car for Dent's men.
On it. Two-Face is attempting to rob Gotham's largest bank in Kingston. Time he was brought to justice, sir.
This is it! The biggest bank in Gotham. Let's set a record tonight, boys. Hell, let's try and set two, for the boss's sake.
Just like the others, these thugs can't hear a thing over the alarms. I'll hit them as hard as I can. I can't leave while there's a robbery in progress.
So she talks to Maroni about his intent to turn on her father, and she tries to change Maroni's mind and keep him from doing that. Sophia vouches that her father is not Holiday, and would not have killed his father and his men that way. She then claims it is actually Harvey Dent that is Holiday. This makes sense to Maroni, and is not as far-fetched as it may seem. Harvey had been hounding the mob all year. He locked away a lot of their men, trying to get them to turn on Falcone prior to then. And when that did not work, Harvey Dent teamed up with Batman to burn down a warehouse full of Carmine Falcone's unlaundered money. All of it, dirty money that needed to be cleaned up, but couldn't because of some other interference that Harvey Dent was running at the time, keeping him from being able to deposit it into banks and other locations. And in return for all the interference, the mob then blows up Harvey Dent's house, trying to kill him and his wife Gilda.
How do you do it, Batman? Play hero when you leave guys like me behind.
So yeah, Harvey Dent had already been bending rules to try hurting the mob. Having nearly been killed by the mob would have been plenty of motivation to continue the murders if he were Holiday. So after giving it some thought, Maroni is convinced that they are right, and that Holiday must be Harvey Dent. Now, being in a holding cell prepared to be a key witness in a trial, that's not exactly an easy thing to suddenly back out of. So Salvatore Maroni just kind of goes through the motions, and indicates he's still going to go through with being a witness. But there's a little bit more going on than Harvey realizes. Eventually the big day comes, and they are on the way to court. While on the way, the assistant to Harvey Dent hands Maroni a bottle of medication that he then says is for Maroni's ulcers. Maroni just agrees with his statement and then takes the bottle. It turns out the assistant to Harvey Dent was being bribed by Maroni. And he had been getting money from Maroni for quite some time so that Maroni could get intel on Harvey Dent. That being said, the bottle did not contain any medicine. It instead contained powerful acid strong enough to eat through concrete. And in the middle of court, Maroni throws the acid at Harvey Dent from the witness stand. The bailiff shoots Maroni 3 times, but Sal survives. Harvey Dent is hit with the acid that's thrown, and then he goes on to have half of his face horribly disfigured. And you could say at this point, Harvey Dent doesn't really survive. Two-Face is just created. Later on, Two-Face does go missing. He ends up escaping from the hospital after attacking the surgeon who was trying to help him. And this is where Harvey Dent, or Two-Face, however you want to refer to him at this point, he kind of just disappears from the comic for a pretty long time. And eventually we find out that Harvey Dent is not Holiday. This occurs when Maroni is eventually shot and killed by the real killer while being escorted out of the jail. We finally get the reveal that Alberto Falcone, Carmine's son who we thought was dead, is actually Holiday. It turned out Alberto was not killed by the serial killer. He just faked his death to operate undetected. Despite Alberto being caught as Holiday, Harvey Dent is still out there somewhere, just waiting to be found or waiting to turn up again. Well, Harvey does turn up again, but only after he recruits villains that Falcone was previously paying to help him throughout the comic. Now that would include Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, Joker, Poison Ivy, and we even get a few honorable mentions in Solomon Grundy and Catwoman who weren't necessarily working for Falcone, but they've been around throughout the whole run.
All of you, out! Tails you lose, Batman. And these guys will make sure. Bring us his corpse!
No more alarm. Hide the sound of my attacks. I need to be quiet.
Now they all raid Falcone's penthouse, and we get the first coin flip death from Two-Face. Harvey flips the coin and shoots Carmine Falcone in the head twice. So in a way, Harvey finally got what he wanted. He stopped Falcone. Carmine's daughter Sophia witnesses his death, and at that point she goes to attack Harvey. Before she can reach Harvey, though, Catwoman intervenes, and the attack that she does to stop Sophia causes her to lose balance, and after all the momentum she had, this led to her falling out of the window to her death. So, Catwoman accidentally killed Sophia Falcone. It is at about this time Batman arrives breaking into the penthouse, and he takes down the villains, all with the exception of Two-Face. Our suddenly very changed Harvey Dent manages to get away and goes on to do one more coin flip kill against his former assistant. You know, the one that was helping the mob and arranged for the acid to be thrown at him. After all of these kills, Harvey turns himself in to Jim Gordon and Batman. He completed what he wanted even if it wasn't necessarily the way he originally intended. He eventually got to the point where he was thinking justice was just going to end up being a coin flip whenever dealing with the mob. And with that perspective in mind, he was finally able to win that coin flip against Falcone. After Two-Face surrenders and gives himself up, it leads to a very interesting question between Batman and Jim Gordon, and it's in reference to the three of them trying to stop Falcone. The question he asks Gordon is, was it worth it? Jim Gordon replies back and says, if you mean did the good guys win, the answer is yes. But if Batman really wants to know if it was worth it, it was going to take a very long time before either of them would know.
Son of a bitch, not again! Got him! We actually killed him! Harvey might feel bad about this, Batman, but we'll bring him round.
This is a really strong answer from Jim considering how Gotham goes from a mob town to being overrun with supervillains in the years to come. It is really debatable if taking down Falcone was worth it. In a way, the loss of the mob just opened up the door for even worse things to take over in Gotham. And also, we should go back to Dent turning himself in. He mentions that there are 2 holidays, but he doesn't elaborate on that statement anymore. Jim Gordon and Batman speculate that maybe he meant he was also Holiday since when he killed Falcone, it was on a holiday as well. That is not really the case though, at least not entirely. In the end, Harvey Dent's wife, Gilda, has a little bit of an internal monologue, and it is there that we get a little bit more complicated than what we originally believed. While Alberto Falcone was Holiday, he was not responsible for all of the Holiday murders. He was only responsible for a few, but took responsibility for all. This is possibly because he wanted more prestige after being caught, and it's kind of backed up when he only confessed to one murder initially. But he refused his father's help, and ultimately he accepted being charged for all the murders. Now, the other murders were actually a combination of both Gilda and Harvey Dent. They were never conspirators together, ironically. It was kind of a coincidence, and they just catch on to each other in the end and never turn on each other. Gilda was killing members of Falcone's mob because Harvey was obsessed. She knew she was never going to have a family and never have the life that they wanted when they first got married, at least not so long as he fixated on the mob. She felt like it was only going to break him if he continued to try and target the mob in a failing effort. So she copied the methods of Alberto Falcone, and then began killing key members of the mob based on Harvey's case files. Then even Harvey kills members of the mob and covers his tracks in the same way, emulating Alberto and unknowingly emulating his wife. Harvey broke long before he was Two-Face. He was already cracking and having to turn to some pretty screwed up means to try and fight them. It was just after being disfigured and truly becoming Two-Face that the world could finally see it. Wanting to take down the mob broke him, and the only way he could do it was to become just like the man he was trying to take down, Carmine Falcone.
Cash, I've captured Two-Face. I'll bring him to you. Send a car for his men.
Sure thing, Batman.
Settle down, Dent.
Don't call me that. He's dead.
I don't believe that.
I wish I was dead. I'm a freak because of you.
That wasn't my fault.
You're the man who put that acid-throwing bastard in the dock. You said we'd save Gotham.
I'm sorry, Harvey. End of the line, Dent.
Never count me out of the game.
Hands off the boss, bat freak! Yeah, he's twice the man you are.
Save your breath. We'll get our chance.
Not anytime soon.
I might have known you'd get in here first, Oswald. Justice never favors the weak.
Keep talking, Harv. I want that smile off the other side of your face if you ain't careful.
So how's it hanging, Harv? Color me insensitive, but I've always wanted to ask. Did everything get split down the middle?
You said the plan was foolproof, Oswald.
Another thing to mention, in case I didn't clarify it sooner, I have been talking about the Long Halloween comics. There is also a two-part animated movie for the Long Halloween. In the beginning, the film is really similar to the comic, there's only a few differences, but those differences begin to get much larger by the end. The ending is a bit different. Now, Gilda is still Holiday, or at least partially Holiday, but her motivations are a bit different in the movie. The movies give Gilda more of a backstory than the comic version does. That backstory includes a very tragic past that involves the Falcone family. Now, this tragic past, it was kept a secret from her husband Harvey, and it served as her motivation to kill specific people in the mob. I like both the comics and the movies quite a bit. Either way, The Long Halloween is really good, and I recommend both. I think I like the comic overall more, although the movie does a much better job giving Gilda purpose and motivation. And when you finally get to that part of the movie, you 100% understand why she was doing what she was doing. So yeah, it is a good read and a good watch. I recommend, but The Long Halloween is also very long. So be ready for that if you go either route. Oh, and let's go back to the topic of Harvey Dent becoming more and more like Carmine Falcone as time went by. In these Arkham games, I don't know if it was deliberate or just a happy accident, but they kind of even make Harvey Dent look more and more like Carmine Falcone as the game series progresses. Like you can kind of see it when I get killed by Two-Face. After we get a close up of Harvey's face, you can see the cat claw marks that have scarred his face from when he and Catwoman fought in Arkham City. Now, Carmine Falcone had the exact same cat claw scars from Catwoman. The circumstances were a little bit different, but they are the same. And we even see Harvey beginning to wear more mobster style suits, the kind of things that you would probably have assumed that Carmine Falcone was wearing. But yeah, when I saw the scars, I really liked that concept. I mean, it might be a complete coincidence, but if it's not, I would say the developers did a really good job of just telling the story of Harvey's conversion to being what he hated with only his appearance changes. So yeah, standing ovation for that if it was planned. But anyway, I have gone on way too long about the Long Halloween. This is it for the Two-Faced Bandit. This side mission gives us the most packed predator maps in the game, at least to my knowledge. There is technically a time limit initially, and you can see it with the amount of money left in the bank, but you're really not pressed for too much time. After enough gunmen were taken down, the time limit is gone entirely, and the enemies can more easily detect you because there is less noise. These Predator maps are a lot of fun, but I would say its counterpart Gunrunner, it is the better of the two side missions. The reason for that is that we have Predator maps in the Two-Faced Bandit. They have a few noise and time limit gimmicks, but that's about it. Two-Face can be taken down really easily, just as easy as anyone else in the Predator map, with no special requirements to take him down and the side mission just being the same thing over 3 different locations. The Two-Faced Bandit side mission just does not have as much to it to make it stand out in comparison to Gunrunner. As a reminder, Gunrunner has vehicle tracking, predator maps, group fights, dual combat with Nightwing, building infiltration, and increased stakes as Nightwing eventually gets captured. In Two-Faced Bandit, we just knock out Two-Face's men at each location until he shows up, and then we do the same thing to him. That may make it seem like I don't like this side mission, but that is not the case at all. I think Two-Faced Bandit is actually a lot of fun. It is the lesser when compared to Gunrunner in my eyes, but it is a great side mission on its own, and these Predator maps are probably the most fun in the game out of all the other Predator maps. Two-Face and company put up a good fight, but they ended up getting locked away alongside their rivals. It's kind of funny after talking about the Long Halloween for so long. In that comic, Harvey was trying to take down the mob. In this video game, he's trying to rob banks with his gang, you know, like a mob. I mean, he uses the excuse that they are laundering money for whatever is left of the mob, but still. Definitely kind of gives you perspective on how much the character changed over time. Anyway, that is going to be it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you will check out the next one. Take care, and I will see you next time.